Hello! I'm so excited to be back in this space with you all. I just got home last night. My family went out of town for a funeral and we were gone Thursday until last night, Sunday. And I have so much to share, so much to talk about. I feel as though this past weekend I was truly humbled by life, and I've gained such a deep level of respect for this path as humans that we chose to walk. I wrote down a little bit of notes. Yeah. I feel as though I was tossed into a very human experience this past weekend, and I was able to, through intentional awareness, understand that I was in the underbelly of my soul, understand that while yes, I was going through it, I was observing myself from a higher perspective. Perhaps not the whole time, but that's the point, is to allow yourself to get lost in the human experience and then come back to center. And then trying to stay in your center as you continue further on your experience until you get lost again and then come back to center. And you do this over and over again until the gaps between you forgetting get smaller and smaller, and then you're fully able to walk this human path, go through this human experience, all the ups and downs, all the challenges without getting lost. But the point is not to shame yourself when you do get lost in it. The point is to simply just return to center. And this is what I did. The night before we left, I sort of understood what was going on, that I was in this underbelly of my soul. And I sat with what was coming up for me, not only just the idea of death and the idea of this human experience being so short, not us specifically, our soul lives on forever, but we're never going to be this human ever again. I only get to be April for as long as April is alive, and then I move on and do the next thing. But I only get to experience this body. I only get to experience this family. I only get to experience these friends as these friends in this physical incarnation for such a limited amount of time, that it has truly humbled me to this. And I was able on the plane ride home to journal about everything I was becoming aware of on the way home after getting lost in it for the weekend. And I have a lot to share, not just in this video, but I'm gonna make a few videos this week that are gonna just be everything that I gained this past weekend. And this is all gonna tie together with our higher selves, right? Because it was not the human April that was the one to come back to center and realize, oh my gosh, I was in the underbelly of my soul. I was really going through it. It was my higher self that saw what was happening and chose to come back to center. It was my higher self that chose to reflect and journal, and it was the integration of my higher self into my physical body that was choosing all of these higher perspectives of what was happening, that was observing my human self go through it. Because not only did I contemplate and get lost in the idea of death this past weekend, but there was a lot of my own limiting beliefs, right? Because once you enter into the underbelly of your soul, your subconscious, it's just all gonna kind of come up and be revealed to you. So not only was I dealing with this concept of death and processing grief, but also just my own shadow is resurfacing again. My limiting beliefs coming back. Feeling confused, feeling lost, feeling like I'm just in the unknown and I have no idea what I'm doing, and feeling genuinely scared. And seeing my issues with worthiness coming back up. All of these things just creeping back up. And what I'm understanding is that it's not about getting rid of these things. It's about learning how to move through these things with more grace and compassion and understanding for what we're going through. Because when we don't have this higher perspective integrated into our experience, we can get lost for a very long time, and we can fall into a deep depression. We can allow projects to slip away from us. We can fall into a state of not being motivated because we're not understanding what it is we're going through, and we think the experience is us, and we think the limiting beliefs and the fears are us, and so we allow them to consume us and control us. Whereas when we're able to step into our highest selves, into our highest perspective of what is happening, we allow what is arising to come up. We allow ourselves to feel the grief, to feel the fear. We allow ourselves to get lost in the confusion, with simultaneously having that higher perspective of what we're going through, with that higher knowingness and understanding that this is not us, this is a temporary experience, and then being able to come back to center, coming back to being able to come back to our heart and move through these experiences, move through these limitations of the mind from our heart, with compassion for ourselves and with compassion for others. And this is going to be a great deal of what we're learning how to do in my 21-day higher self activation and integration event. Because the idea is not to get rid of the human experience. The idea is not to limit ourselves to only feeling joy, to only feeling abundance. The idea is to be able to go through these things with a higher awareness, and through this higher awareness, we're able to alchemize the feelings of unworthiness into a deep sense of worthiness. We're able to alchemize our fears and limitations and lack into a even deeper rooted trust into the unknown. Alchemize it into a even deeper understanding of our own abundance from within. The idea is not to get rid of these lower dense emotions. The idea is to allow ourselves to sink down, to descend down into them while holding the higher perspective simultaneously, so that then we are able to alchemize these dense emotions into these higher frequency, these higher energetic consciousnesses, like abundance, like worthiness, expansion, joy, freedom. But we must understand how this process works from within before we're more able to move through it with grace and compassion for ourselves, right? So if you're interested in that, I'll leave the link down below to sign up. December 1st to December 21st, every day at 3 p.m. Central, and then I'll upload the replay, and you can have access to the replay. If not that night, then the next morning it'll be uploaded. But yeah, so if you're interested in that, it's down below to sign up. And anyways, yeah. And this is what I wrote on the plane that I wanted to read. I underlined this specific part. It is only when we can truly anchor ourselves in this moment that we begin to receive the fruits of life. Descending down into time is also how we rise up out of it. Only when we are fully able and capable of integrating the present moment can we transcend it. being able to receive in order to release, right? So often we fall into this trap of just wanting to ignore it, of wanting to get rid of the discomfort. So we just avoid it at all costs because we are, Murph, lay down, baby, and I'll play with you after. Lay down, come here. I know, I missed you too. You gotta lay down, baby. Lay down. So often we get trapped in this belief that if we are feeling these dense emotions, that we're doing something wrong, that there's something wrong with us, that we're not actually reaching the end goal or whatever it is we set in mind. We're afraid and we're telling ourselves that we're doing it wrong and that we're never going to get to where we want to be because why are we experiencing lack, right? If I'm worthy, I shouldn't be experiencing lack. I should be experiencing abundance. But that's not the point of this experience. That's not the reason we chose to incarnate into this physical form. We chose to experience lower density. We chose to incarnate into a third dimensional reality with the understanding before we incarnated it that we are gonna move through an evolution in human consciousness. And as we move through this evolution in human consciousness, it's important to understand that we're alchemizing our lower dense experiences into higher states of being, into higher states of consciousness, not through suppressing and denying, but through surrendering to what is and allowing your heart to receive what is, allowing your heart to break, allowing yourself to grieve, allowing yourself to move through your fears, allowing yourself to move through feelings of unworthiness, of uncertainty, of confusion, not denying any aspect of this human journey, not suppressing any of it, but understanding that this is what you came here to experience so that you could alchemize it into higher frequencies, into higher levels of experience, right? It's not about avoiding, suppressing, denying. It's about surrendering and receiving in order to transmute and alchemize into abundance, into unconditional love, into joy, into freedom, right? But you are only going to rise up as far as you're willing to go down. And I know that I've been talking about this in a lot of my videos, but I think this is the most important thing for us to understand at this time. Our ego is going to tell us that we're not doing it right unless we have everything that we want. Our ego is going to tell us that there's something wrong with us if we're not doing exactly what it wants us to be doing. The ego has a story in mind that it wants to play out, and this story that it's creating, it's saying, I'll only be worthy once this story comes true. I'll only be worthy when I get to this thing that I've been visualizing. But that's a lie. And it's being disguised as spirituality through the guise of manifestation. And a lot of people fall into the belief that you're not doing it right, or that you're not spiritual, or you're not good enough unless your visualizations come into fruition. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. That is just another story that you are playing in, that you can choose to rise above and become the observer of your human self believing this story. Become the observer of your human self walking through this pain of not receiving what it wants right now, of feeling like it's not good enough. The idea is not to be like, oh yeah, you're good enough, just wait, just keep waiting. We're gonna get what we want, don't worry, and then I'll prove to you, see, I told you we were good enough, but for now, just stop saying that we're not good enough because I don't wanna talk about that right now. You're blocking my manifestation. Stop it. No. You're suppressing a piece of yourself. You're denying and avoiding a part of yourself that is hurting. You are showing yourself that you're not worthy of being heard. You're showing yourself that your feelings are not valid. You're showing yourself that what you are actually going through is just a lie. Which ultimately we understand that the stories are not true. They're illusions created by the mind to distract you and bring you out of your heart. But the way to deal with it is not to tell yourself, right? When someone's like really hurting, when someone's really going through something painful, it's not helpful to be like, that's not real. I know your leg is bleeding right now, but this is all just a dream. This is all just an illusion. So it doesn't matter that you think your leg's bleeding. It's an illusion. That's not helpful. The helpful thing is to receive the moment. Oh shit, okay, their leg is bleeding. What do I need to do? Right? Let's comfort them. Let's clean it up. Let's bandage it, and let's get them to feeling better. Right? This is kind of the same thing that you should be doing for yourself, but rather than turning into the fixer of, okay, what do I need to do to fix this? It's more, okay, how can I be still with this? How can I drop deeper into this? How can I descend down into the feeling of unworthiness? How can I let myself really sink down into the depths of my soul, the depths of my subconscious, while simultaneously holding the higher perspective and watching yourself as the observer as you go through it, with that deep understanding that it's not true, but while simultaneously not denying that it is what's coming up right now. This is how you feel right now. Right now, in this moment, I'll just give you an example of this past weekend. I was having a lot of unworthiness coming up around like my YouTube channel and the work I've been doing on myself. And I've been having a lot of fears coming up and a lot of feelings of, what's that word? Where you're like an imposter syndrome. I was having this imposter syndrome come up and a lot of fear of like, okay, like what if I'm going down the wrong path and I'm leading people down the wrong path because people are listening to me, and just having like this weight falling onto my shoulders and just kind of freaking out a little bit. And I got lost in it for a little bit. For at least a day I was lost in it, and that was my headspace of like, oh my God, like I'm an imposter, blah 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 blah, the stories we tell ourselves. And I was lost in that for a little while until I snapped out of it and I came back to center, and I was like, oh shit, okay. Let's meditate, let's come back to our heart, and let's breathe into this. Let's really like sink into this feeling of unworthiness. Let's really sink into these feelings of being an imposter, and we're not going to try and fix it. We're not going to try and change it. I'm not going to deny that this is what I'm feeling. I'm not going to tell myself, oh, you shouldn't be feeling that. That's stupid, or whatever we tell ourselves. I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to comfort my heart, and I'm just going to breathe into it. And then I journaled a little bit, and you know what? Now I'm even more confident. I sat with it. I comforted that aspect of myself. I soothed her while simultaneously observing from a higher perspective and understanding that these fears that were coming up are not true. While understanding that they're just limitations of past versions of myself, and I don't have to choose to spiral down into them. I don't have to choose to believe that they're true. I don't have to do that. And if I had chose to believe that all of these stories were true, I probably wouldn't be making this video right now. I probably would be deep into a depressive downturn spiral where I just sit on the couch and mope and feel sorry for myself and watch Netflix, right? But because I was able to go through it while simultaneously holding that higher perspective that it wasn't true and comforting myself as I moved through it, I alchemized it. And so now it's been transformed into an, even deeper rooted sense of confidence. Not because I think I'm the best and I know everything, but because I do have a connection to God. I do choose to follow my heart and to let my heart guide me. I do choose to deepen my connection to God every single day. I do choose to honor this human path. I do choose to have integrity. And I do also, when I am wrong, when I do something wrong, when I do hurt somebody, I take ownership of it and I apologize. I understand that I'm not always right. I understand that this is my path and my perspective. And this is what I've gone through. And not everybody is going to resonate with me, but not everybody needs to resonate with me. The people who are meant to hear my voice, the people who are meant to hear my story, and the people who are meant to understand me, where was I going with that? That's how it's meant to be. And it's not because I'm special or magical or better than anybody. It's because I have chosen the divine. I have chosen God, and I have chosen to walk with God. And I have chosen to share my story. I've chosen to share my relationship with the divine. I've chosen to express my relationship with the divine through these videos. And so it may not be for everybody, and that's okay, because we all have unique connections and relationships to the divine. But to the people who it is for, to the people that it does help, that's worth it to me. If my voice, if my story has the capability of helping somebody, of raising somebody's level of consciousness and awareness, of waking somebody up to their own truth, of waking somebody up to their heart, or reminding, or whatever it is for whoever it is, and I get to provide that just simply by sharing my perspective, by sharing my story, then that is like a deep honor to me. And with this understanding, I wouldn't have been more rooted and grounded in this understanding if I had not allowed myself to feel the fear of rejection, to feel through that sense of imposter syndrome. If I had just avoided it and shoved it away and tried to, I wouldn't have gained the gift it was trying to give me, which was becoming more rooted into myself, becoming more grounded into the earth, and becoming even more connected and close in my relationship to the divine, even more close to my relationship with God. I would have been denying myself these beautiful gifts because I was just too scared to sit with this feeling of unworthiness. But yeah, I chose to sit with it, even though it hurt. And yeah, that's the end. I love ending it that way. That's the end. It just stops flowing. So yeah, but I took a lot of notes on the plane that I'm gonna turn into videos. So yeah, anyway, let me know how y'all are feeling. I hope this was helpful to somebody, and I will talk to you later.